Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
DeGrazia Gallery-in-the-Sun is a 10-acre historical landmark. It's nestled in the foothills of the beautiful Santa Catalina Mountains in Tucson, Arizona. It was opened in 1965 and is home to over 15,000 originals of Ted DeGrazia art pieces that range from oil paintings to ceramics, sculptures to watercolors. And honestly, there's a little bit of everything. He was a Renaissance man and is known to be one of the most reproduced artists in the world. There are also 6 permanent collections that you can view, as well as several rotating exhibits. And Lance Laber, who we call the Tucson Dude, the executive director of the DeGrazia Gallery-in-the-Sun, is joining us on Big Blend Radio today to talk about 2 new collections on display. And we encourage you to go to the website degrazia.org. That's the direct website. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and we also feature them on blendradioandtv.com and also on nationalparktraveling.com. So Tucson Dude, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Good. Oh, I got to get your website right, degrazia.org, everyone.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it.
And Ted DeGrazia really, he's known to be the most reproduced artist. And, I was laughing earlier about the fact that he really, not laughing, but he has done so much. It's not just paintings and sculptures. It goes all the way into jewelry. We were talking about this earlier. We always talk about this on shows with you, that even Christmas ornaments and then ornaments that can float in your toilet.
That's correct.
Yeah. So how many different, murals, everything. I know, don't laugh at me.
But can we clarify the ornaments that float in your toilet?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, please.
Go, Nancy.
Back in, let's just say the old days, the old-time toilets, they used to have copper toilet floats. So when you pulled the crank, you pulled the handle, the toilet float would go up and then it would flush the toilet. And DeGrazia took, a whole bunch of these copper toilet floats and made Christmas ornaments out of them. And they're really beautiful.
They are.
And you don't float them in your toilet.
No.
Not anymore.
I don't know about flotation devices very well, but this is the thing, is he created on everything. In fact, wasn't a tortilla one of the first things that he used to create on?
We have a tortilla that has a horse painted on it. Yeah, it was a Christmas card from 1975. So it was one of the later things, but yeah, that's, he painted on whatever he could find.
And
that's
then,
cool.
I know, and then books, he got into books. How many books do you think he's published? There's
probably around 20.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, he did a book for every permanent collection of paintings he did.
Oh, that's interesting, because I know Padre Kino, we were talking about that last month with you.
Right, that's a permanent collection, and the Papago Indian Legends, and the Yaqui Easter, and the bullfight, and the retrospective collection, and then there's also a University of Arizona collection that there's a book. So there's a bunch of them.
And he also wrote, and because I was reading the Padre Kino book, and he wrote like a fantasy story, and I think that's really interesting because he also did music. We're going to end our segment with you with playing the song Chase, Dance, Laugh, which I believe is actually Domingo DeGrazia's song, but it's on a album called Please Remember Me, and this was all put together from music that you found, the actual manuscripts of his music, and turned this into an album with the help of Domingo, right?
That's correct. We got the Tucson Jazz Academy. We found the music and got them to arrange it, and we thought it would be really nice to get Domingo, his son, on the record. And I guess they're called discs now. Sorry, that dated me.
He would want vinyl, dude. He would want vinyl. Yeah. I'm just saying, he would want vinyl. I know.
Yeah,
he would.
So anyway, so we did that, and we got Domingo wrote a couple of tunes to put on there and played on a few, and so it was a really nice father and son collaboration.
That's amazing. And the one thing why I wanted to play that song at the end, Chase, Dance, Laugh, is, to me, it kind of goes with these 2 new exhibits you have. One is DeGrazia's chickens, because anybody who raises chickens, that's what happens. You dance around them and then laugh. But because good luck with that. But
or they dance around you.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. And so he, I want to totally get into the DeGrazia's desert dwellings as well. That exhibit, because it goes with the entire gallery and building the gallery and what he did. Um, but chickens, there is a painting that has always struck me going in the gallery on the way in. You know, when you walk through the cholla, I'm going to say the cholla garden that's on the floor.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That it was always on the left. These two, there are two chickens going at it. Or I don't know if they're having a
giant cockfight. It's huge.
Yeah,
yes.
And it's colorful. So was this him watching chickens, or is this? I know that there's the.
Well, you know, DeGrazia was spent a lot of time in Mexico. He had a lot of friends, and he traveled down there to paint, and he traveled down there to work with Diego Rivera. And you know, Mexico was like a second home to him. And cockfighting is a big thing in Mexico, and it still is. They raise fighting cocks, and they gamble, and they put these big sharp spikes on their feet, and you know, it's something that they do a lot of down there.
Can I say we don't like that? But you know, that's the
you
thing.
You can say that, sure.
Yeah, it is, but it's still
the painting is beautiful.
The painting
the
is
rhythm and the colors.
That we have to make a jigsaw puzzle of that. Everybody,
the painting's beautiful.
You'll see.
The idea behind it, not so much.
Yeah, you'll see this up on blendradioandtv.com right now. You can be able to put that puzzle, because that to me, the colors are so vibrant, and that painting is almost like a watercolor crossed with a oil. And he worked a lot in oils and watercolors. That his two.
Yeah, that's a big oil. You know, I should say that, you know, Lisa, DeGrazia came from a time when cockfighting was accepted and bullfighting was accepted. Yeah. So, you know, he was from a different era, and things that we, you know, kind of turn our nose up to today, in his day were just cultural things. And
right.
Yeah, so you know, he was big with bullfighting and big with cockfighting, and did some very beautiful renditions.
Well, and that's the thing. We talk about what happens today, but this is what is so interesting about art, is that it preserves history and showcases what we've done in the past. And it isn't about whether we like it or not. That's what happened, and that's the way people lived, and what we all did. And every culture has some form of that, and animals being part of the entertainment side, or the gambling side, or competition, or sports. And in some ways, I think it's in our way of part of trying to connect in some ways, and then some ways not. I mean, there's, you know, we do boxing and we do all of that, you know.
Yeah. Animal cruelty is looked upon in a different way now than it used to be.
Absolutely.
And I'm just happy that, you know, as human beings, we're moving forward rather than going backwards.
Exactly. But I think being able to see it, if we don't get to see the past, we don't know how to fix the future.
Well,
and
that's
so
true.
art plays a huge role of documenting what was going on, and oftentimes is more realistic.
But
you know,
but there are some things that happen in nature without man being involved at all. So if two male chickens want to fight,
they do
territorial-wise, they're going to fight, whether or not humans have anything to do about it.
Or humans aren't throwing $20 bills down, to see which one's going to win.
Yeah, or you know, raising them for that purpose and putting them together where they might not have been together. But in nature, this happens all the time.
Right. And also, nature doesn't have metal spikes.
Right.
that they put on their feet.
That's actually not even necessary.
However, have you seen Roadrunners and rattlesnakes?
But because, you know, nature's a little bit like a little bit smarter in that. I'm not going to say there's no death in nature, because that's not true, but there's rarely fighting to the death in nature, because nature knows it wants things to procreate and continue. When mankind gets involved, now it could be a little different. We just, you know, to when you kill the other kind of thing. So that's the metal spikes. But there is a rhythm to when conflict happens in nature. And that's what I think DeGrazia caught in that painting.
Yeah.
And I think the colors he used tried to make it almost pretty.
Yeah.
Or natural, or not as horrific as what an actual cockfight would be.
That's interesting.
I've never seen one myself, so I really couldn't say. Except
he had
for
a lot of pinks and it was, you know, the blues and the greens.
And pastel, but not like blood red. Like
he was showing the birds in flight, basically.
You know, the birds themselves, chickens that are raised for cockfighting are really colorful birds anyway.
Yes.
You know, it's not just a plain white chicken. A lot of them are very colorful. So I guess that's where that comes from.
Well,
it's interesting.
And the fact that he did a series of chickens, I think, is interesting too, because it brings in the Mexican culture and the culture of living in the desert, and how, I mean, how many people have a neighbor that has a chicken crowing somewhere? I mean, we do. I mean, and it doesn't actually, it's all cultures do it. And a lot of people have that. And to me, it's cool, like wakey. So I love that he brings that in. And do you think some of it was here in Tucson that he was painting, or?
You know, let me say this. First of all, these were not done as a series, but these were done over a very long period of time. Some of the older paintings we have that were from the 30s. We have one particular painting called Los Perdidos. It's the peasants, and they're all sitting around a table, and everybody looks very sad. And there's a chicken that's a chicken that's dead, that's kind of crumpled in the middle of the table, and it's a very sad painting. But it's very old. It's from the 30s, and these paintings that he did go all the way through probably the late 70s. There's watercolors where he used wet paper, you know, where the watercolor soaks into the paper. He did some of those. He did a lot of oils. There's some very small pieces that he did that were done with varnish, where there's 20 or 30 coats of varnish on it, where the varnish is built up. He used many different methods and experimented a lot with these chickens.
Wow.
I think it's interesting because he kind of portrays things from realistic and his, like, almost a historian for sure. And then he'll go and do like his what we now look at as Christmas cards and like Los Niños and things like that. He has several different styles.
Yeah. But he has
the realistic, and then he turns it into fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The fantasy side, he's in there, and then at the same time that figurative side where you see that movement, and I think that's where it comes with the animals as well, whether it's a bullfight, you know, cockfight, or actually just there's a road runner running, or, you know, he's got a lot of different animals and birds that he's done, but
he has the rhythm of
he captures the rhythm and that little glimpse of wildness. And I think he captures that in the human aspect too, of, so he just in all the paintings I've seen, he has this affinity to capture the human spirit and then the wild spirit of animals and the human spirit. And
that's very true.
Yeah, he does, and it doesn't have to be this very detailed picture, and that's what's amazing. He was not an incredibly detailed artist to be able to capture that, and for you to know what it is and have that immediate feeling. That was cool. That's so cool about his work. So he's got the chickens, and apparently he has pictures with nuns and chickens.
Yep, there's a painting of 3 nuns holding a chicken. I'm not sure where that came from. I'm not sure what his inspiration for that was, but, you know, he was friends with a lot of the nuns, and, you know, maybe they raised some chickens for eggs or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, you know, when we lived in Kenya, and Nancy taught art to the Carmelite nuns, and I went to a convent, and yes, my knuckles, thank you, ladies, sisters, I should say. They still hurt, but they lived off the land and had these gardens and chickens and things too.
Yeah, they raised everything.
I know that on the property you've got the gallery, and we'll talk about that because, I mean, he built that with, you know, with friends, and yet there's the nuns' quarters, not necessarily out there for everyone to see, but there were nuns' quarters. So with the mission, the nuns' quarters, did the nuns live there, or did he just have a nice place for them to go hang out?
Actually, yeah, no, the DeGrazia was very close friends with a lot of the Benedictine sisters here in Tucson, and there was also some in California that he was friends with. And they used to, when we used to come through Tucson, they always would stop to see DeGrazia, and he would put them up, and they would go stay in the nun's house, and that was where they got to spend the night. And then they would many times sign there's a wooden door on the inside of the building there, and they would autograph the door. So there's all kinds of autographs from all the different Benedictine sisters on the walls and it's kind of neat.
It's really cool. Interesting, the story of nuns in the Southwest. They're like St. Mary's. I know it's a hospital now, right? But it had to do with these sisters, named after them, but St. Mary, or Sister Mary, I should say, not St. Mary. They went in a wagon deal across the desert to Yuma area, and they were trying to go to California or something. But there's this whole story of Sister Mary, and that's how they went back and forth or something like that. It's amazing the strength of these sisters out in the desert way back when. I mean, you don't have like pull over and sit in air conditioning back then, and they were tough ladies, and that's how Sister Mary's part of the legacy of that hospital, and that comes from that. So I always wondered about if Ted DeGrazia ever met or like knew of that and knew them. And
that's a good question. I really don't know.
The Sisters of the Desert. I have to go look that up. Jan Clear will know. She wrote about that. I will research that, Lance.
Google
okay,
it.
So I will. No, I got the author.
Okay.
I got the source, the real deal. You never know what's on Google now.
Really?
Just kidding. But anyway, so let's talk about the desert dwellings, because this series, he's got like the paintings of living in the desert. I've seen one it's almost like the desert cabin with the saguaro, and then saguaro. I'm saying it correctly, Lance, now.
Yeah, saguaros. He did landscapes where you're looking out in the distance, and there's little buildings and villages and pueblos, Indian pueblos, and trading posts, that kind of thing. And so we thought we'd throw some of those out too, and they're very nice. I'm not sure if they're quite as nice as the chickens, but they're pretty good. They're pretty nice.
Well, you know what? I think he had a thing about desert architecture, which is different. Look at the gallery and how low down it is. Like how low. It's not a skyscraper, right? Because it's adobe, and a lot of the paintings I saw from this it shows like how you have to like hunker down because the desert gets windy. And I feel like the architecture was built that way out here.
His use of color is different, and they're kind of moody.
Yeah, the one that's like the pastel grays. I've never seen him do that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
that he goes to that, like to be all in grays.
Right now, there's going to be 20. There's 21 paintings. They're oils. They're watercolors. There's I believe even there's some ceramics. Actually, those are with the chickens. There's some metal and there's some ceramics in the chicken exhibit.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So,
well, there's always going to be something different with him.
Always.
You never run out. It's amazing.
Where do you think his idea of I'm going to build something comes from? Or is it just part of the whole creative process? Going for my paint, I do this, and I sculpt, so why not build a gallery?
DeGrazia always saw himself as a builder. In 1940 or 41, when he built his first gallery in the middle of Tucson, he built it again. He built it himself. They made the adobes themselves. He designed it. So he was a self-made architect from the very beginning. And he designed the gallery and built it, and he designed the little church, the little mission he built, and it was all designed by him. So. The man was a Renaissance man.
Yeah, and it became a national landmark, a national historic landmark. Was that because of his legacy, for his art, or for like the architecture part?
Actually, it was all of it. It was both of it. It was the buildings as much as it was the paintings and the art.
Wow, that's interesting, man. So wow. I wish I want to spend like a happy hour with him.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to meet him, and just hang out with him, and I don't know, I'd love to see him work. And I think that video that you have at the gallery, that's the first thing people should do. It's like, I know you walk in and you want to get all immersed in the work because it's so colorful and vibrant when you walk in the gallery, and the architecture is like, wow, this is cool. Like you feel like you're in Morocco or something. It's like, yeah, you're in the desert Southwest for sure. And then you go watch the video first. I really believe people should watch that first.
Well, it gives you a really good idea of who DeGrazia was, and you get to hear him narrating himself and talking about his own art, so you get a really, really much better idea of who the man was and what he was thinking about. And then when you see that documentary, then when you go through the gallery, it just gives you such a much better idea of what he was about. And so I agree with you. It's a good thing to listen to before you go through the gallery.
Excellent. Now, everybody, these two new exhibits will be running May 18th, 2018 through January 30th, 2019. Like, really, are we already going to 2019, Lance? No.
You know what? Let's see. The sooner we get to 2020, the happier I'll be.
I know. I like 2020 because then I can pretend I'm in the news. Like, this is Lisa from 2020. Sorry. But anyway, the other thing is you got current exhibits. The hot wax encaustic paintings, that's on display until September 5th. And that's something, just showing how he gets into all kinds of
those were paintings that DeGrazia did with beeswax rather than oil paintings. They're very interesting and somewhat experimental, although, people were painting with encaustics for a long time. But DeGrazia was always experimenting with, old stuff, new stuff. He was always trying something different.
I love it. The story is incredible. And everyone, if you come through Tucson, definitely a place to go and visit. It is incredible because it's 10 acres. And there's a little gallery that's open in the fall and winter up to April, pretty much November through April, with, rotating artists coming in and showcasing there. You've got the gallery itself, and you can see where DeGrazia lived, and his wife, Marion. I always want to give her a shout out because
that's nice that you do that, because she was just a very fine artist in her own right, and her stuff is up too.
I love it. And there's a book of her art too. She's also
correct. Correct.
She has a book, and I love that book. And so go visit the gallery, and also make sure you keep up with the different exhibits because they do change up. Of course, you can see the permanent exhibits, but go to degrazia.org. Getting it right. And you can also go to blendradioandtv.com. You'll see Lance in our expert contributor department, so you can keep up with all the different interviews we've done over the years, because it's actually really amazing how much we've talked over the years, Lance, and how we learn something new
every
each time. And that just shows what a prolific artist Ted DeGrazia is, Other than we always have a good time chatting with you, but he's amazing what he's done. And it's over the years just to learn all these different things that he's done. So always a pleasure. And Lance, we've got music for you,
I love it.
We're going to play that song, Chase, Dance, Laugh. Everybody's from the album Please Remember Me. You can get it on the online store. Hello, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Online store, degrazia.org is the place to get it. And don't forget, Big Blend Radio airs on Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and on Fridays and Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you all for joining us on Big Blend Radio. Go to bigblendradio.com to keep up with all our shows that go live, or you can listen on demand and go to degrazia.org. And here it is, Chase, Dance, Laugh. Thank you so much, Lance.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.